this is kind of, Gaza Wars, Mark One. Israel does have a bead on some Hamas leaders and has no compunction in taking them out with airstrikes and whatever means it can, and it has no compunction about taking out their families at the same time.
Let's first welcome Richard Spencer, the Times Middle East correspondent in Israel. Welcome to you, Richard.
Good evening.
Hi. So Rishi Sunak, then, the latest Western leader to arrive there just after Joe Biden, joining this chorus of support for Israel, tempered by concern for innocent Palestinians. Can you just sum up for us, what is the value and the importance of this train of leaders arriving in Israel?
I think there's two things to say. I mean, one is the very close messaging, very close to Biden's messaging yesterday. Clearly either thought through by Sunak or negotiated even with the Americans, the idea that those three messages that Sunak gave of support for Israel, support for the ground offensive that we expect on Gaza, at the same time tempered with an appeal for restraint as regards to citizens, and thirdly, welcoming humanitarian relief to go into Gaza. That's exactly the order that Biden presented it, and ditto with Sunak, which says something about the current trajectory of British foreign policy, back on a very, slipstreaming into the American strategy. Secondly, there's a special responsibility that Britain has for this conflict, given that we were the mandate power all those years ago, that century ago, when the division of Israel, the division of Palestine into Israel and a proto-Palestinian state came about. Britain is historically unpopular with both sides, having not really filled itself with glory. And Israel has often regarded Britain as pro-Palestinian, and indeed is very angry at the pro-Palestinian commentary that's come from parts of Britain in this current crisis. So I think Sunak's visit has reassured Israel that Britain's position is with Israel on this, in this case, Sunak echoed Biden's own words when saying that, and that will have been heard by Netanyahu,
yes,
and indeed by Netanyahu's critics.
We heard the Israeli leader speak today of a long war against Hamas. Should we attach significance, importance to those words, a long war? I mean, does it conceivably indicate that the pressure from countries like America, like Britain, like Germany for restraint is bearing on Israeli minds?
I don't think the calls for restraint are being taken as a literal call not to wage war on Gaza. I think. Yes, I think I've been thinking about this because it's been there right from the very beginning, and at a boring level, all it's saying is this will not be a war that we've seen in the previous few rounds of engagement between Hamas and Israel, where Israel's lobbed a few bombs at Gaza, and then there's been a ceasefire and everything's gone back to how it was before. He's saying we will go into Gaza and do whatever it takes to crush Hamas and destroy Hamas's presence in Gaza, and that obviously is not an easy task and will take some time. I also think he is, if you like, trying to, subconsciously make us think of other wars. Wars between Israel and its enemies have often been quite short. The 6-Day War, the ultimate short war. The Yom Kippur War in 1973 didn't last. It lasted longer, but not a huge amount of time. He's trying to say, you have to think of us in different terms now. We are in a long war with our enemies, and we will do what it takes, as you did in, as he says, the Second World War and so on, to defeat our enemies. I don't think he thinks it'll go on for 6 years, but I think he's saying that this is a different type of war, and you have to expect that.
Yes. I mean, that is all very, very interesting. Now, we also have seen there's been a deal of some kind, which means that some aid is going to get across the border, some sort of caravan of trucks bearing humanitarian aid. What do you make of that? How much aid is likely to get across the border from Egypt? We've had talk of 20 trucks, which seems very little when weighed against the need of the Palestinians on the other side.
Yeah, this is not a solution to the humanitarian needs of Gaza and those million Palestinians who are currently sheltering in the far south of the Gaza Strip, having been told to seek safety there from the bombing. This is just to stop an immediate emergency in terms of lack of water supplies, lack of medical supplies in the hospitals. One hopes that the aid agencies will be carefully targeting the recipients of that aid to make sure it is spread as widely as possible to where it can do the most good. But yeah, it's not a huge amount of aid, and it is not going to be continuing. We understand it's not just they aren't going to just leave the border open for further aid supplies. So I suspect we may see this whole negotiation we've had this week to get this aid in repeated next week.
Well, now, meanwhile, Richard, Hamas have said that one of its top commanders and the family of one of those commanders has been killed in an Israeli strike. Does that tell us something about the Israeli operation, part of its decapitation plan?
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of Gaza wars, Mark One. Israel does have a bead on some Hamas leaders and has no compunction in taking them out with airstrikes and whatever means it can, and has no compunction about taking out their families at the same time. This is not the first Hamas leader's wife to be killed. And indeed, the son of the leader of Hamas, Ismail Haniyeh, who lives in Qatar, his son, who is also obviously a Hamas leading operative, was killed with his family in an airstrike a couple of days ago.
Richard Spencer in Israel Times Middle East correspondent, thank you for joining us as ever.